We're live now. So whatever you. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to an episode of Draft to the Future. I'm Matt. That's Ryan. He's hitting things up. And today, what we're doing is we are talking about all the bowl games that have happened and who stood out. Just doing a general wrap up on bowl game things. So if you're new to the channel, hey, we love it if you give a like and a subscribe. We'd love it if you stop by, hop in the chat. Really just an opportunity to converse and share thoughts. And we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and it is go time now. The draft, the portal's almost closed, so we'll know soon who all is going out, who all is going to different schools, and we've got lots of content planned over the next few months. We'll talk about that a little bit probably towards the end of the live here. So Matt, what were your thoughts overall on the bowl season so far?
So I wasn't ready. I was ready for that question, but I wasn't ready for it out the gate. If you take the CFP and put it on one side and you look at all the rest of the bowls, for me, it's really hard. I have to reformat my brain because bowl season used to be the last chance to see the greats before draft season, and it was your last chance. And some guys, we'll talk about one in particular, some guys went and they played and they showed out, and I really appreciated it. But for the most part, I was excited to watch, the best of the best. And to be fair, it turned out like, okay, well, let's see what this next generation's all about. Let's see what the next class is going to look like. And maybe I'll learn to like it, but from my end, outside of the CFP bowl games, it was a little sad because I'm like, oh, Penn State, Clemson, let's go, and like nobody played. It was like,
and that's kind of my views on it too. Like the bowl season is a little weird now because CFP, the stars are there for the most part, and then all the other bowls, it's just let's see what everyone is going to do that is not in the transfer portal already. I think college football needs to change the transfer portal time to maybe help that out a little bit. But overall, I honestly do think it's been a super fun bowl season. There's been some awesome games. Like the very first game was against SC State and Prairie View.
I wanted to talk about that. That was the best game.
Crazy. It was such a crazy game and such a I watched it because I'm obsessed with football, but I was like, what is happening? But yeah, and so Matt and I made our picks, and I ended up bringing home the dub on that. He's done better in the CFP, but we both kind of sucked in the CFP
because I wasn't brave enough to call Miami over Ohio State.
That's what I'm saying. You called most of those, but you're like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I just can't do it. Except I'm gonna.
Yeah, so getting into some of the players, we'll kind of go back and forth here on some players, but we're not going to talk about every single game, but we're going to talk about a lot of the games and some players that shine and their potential draft stock. But so first one is Boise State and Washington that I want to talk about. There's a guy named Jaden Virgin Morgan who is a pass rusher. I believe he's going back to school, but I'm not sure. He had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for losses, did pretty well. And then Denzel Boston, 6 catches, 126 yards, and a touchdown. My comp for him has been T. Higgins, and I kind of dig it.
He carved him up. I actually watched that game. They had no answers for him.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because this draft feels a little light. So we could see him go first round. I expect him to go first round, probably towards the end. But he's definitely a guy that I don't know that he's necessarily going to be a number 1 for a team, but he can definitely be that deep threat that can do contested catches all the time. So I think he's definitely going to, if you pair him with maybe like a Malik Neighbors, it'd be wild.
Yep. And then a guy I've been kind of from afar, keeping my eye on is Mizzou State, Arkansas State, Jacob Clark. Just kind of quietly put up 350 yards, 4 TDs. He's straight out of casting call. And he's also in the American Bowl, which I'm going to highlight. There's a lot of intriguing stuff with Jacob Clark, and to see him perform in a bowl game, he's taking a small step up in the American Bowl, but he's a guy who has a lot of traits.
Yeah, he played through a lot of injuries this year, I believe, if not mistaken.
So it'll be kind of interesting to kind of see where he goes there. But I've been kind of singing his praises, just based off the production side of things.
Yeah. So then we had Bama versus Oklahoma was the very first game of the CFP, and Deontay Lawson is a linebacker that is likely going to be in this draft, I believe. He had 10 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss, and a pass deflection. He was kind of like all over the place that game. A lot of the quarterbacks left a little bit to be desired, unfortunately, for both teams. Ty Simpson even got benched. So it was a little rough. But even with it being rough, Deion Burks was able, for Oklahoma, was able to have 7 catches, 170 yards, and a touchdown. He's going to be probably a round 3-4 type guy that is hopefully going to be able to help a team that's looking for that shifty slot type receiver.
Did Simpson get benched in both games? I know he got benched against Indiana, but
I'm thinking about Indiana. You're right. You're right. And since I know you love a lot of them Miami boys,
oh my gosh,
go ahead and talk about Miami.
So look, Akeem Messidor is going to make someone look like a genius if he goes in the 3rd round where he's projected to go. Someone can look like a genius. Ruben Bain, what was it you put in that text? He's making those little baby arms work.
Oh yeah, I was like, those little arms are doing some work.
So he played a SEC offensive line, and Zune has some good traits, and he still had 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. Keontae Scott had 10 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. And I really want to give assertion. The MVP of the CFP right now is Mark Fletcher for Miami.
Yeah, he's been incredible. He's been incredibly productive. He's been efficient. Every time he touches the ball, it feels like, okay, here's a first. Like, let's just hand it off. He'll get us a first. And he's such a bruiser too. So he to me, he's a 3-down back. I don't know if he's declaring or not. We won't find that out probably till closer to the 26th, I think.
I heard an announcement that he's already said he's coming back.
Oh, he is coming back. Yeah. Okay. So if he's going back, that's good for him.
Right now, I'd say it's more likely that he changes his mind. You can't have a bonkers college football playoff run like this.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on because the NFL gives out like projected grades. So if he reaches out and asks for what his projection is, that would be what would determine if he comes out or not, I think. But yeah, he's been incredible. And Keontae Scott for me is a guy. He's a little older, I believe. But I think he's going to be a really tough nickel at the next level. So then we got Toledo versus Louisville. So Louisville, Kewan and Isaac Brown both ran for more than 100 yards. And Isaac Brown actually entered the transfer portal and then recommitted to Louisville, which is pretty cool. And then my guy, Clev Lubin, a sack and a half, 2 tackles for loss, 7 total tackles. Super excited. I was ready to hype him up all draft season to tell people how dumb they are for not having him higher. But then he's going back to Louisville. So that's a little unfortunate. Toledo, most of their players that are going to the draft didn't play, and then the rest pretty much transferred. So there's, they didn't have a team really at all.
Yep.
Um,
I'm going to start bouncing around because
okay.
a guy I want to talk about, a game I want to talk about is LSU Houston. First off, Connor Wegman is reintroducing himself to pro scouts. He's going to come back, but he has reignited the interest people have. And I've been tracking Trades Green, who had 4 catches for 80 yards and 2 tutties. I've been tracking him since last year because the guy's just enormous. So you watch him move and you watch him run, and he should not be that athletic. So
he's tight end 1 going into next year, in my opinion. He's tight end 1. I have him on my list of players that I want one of us to cover.
Yeah.
So hopefully be on the lookout for that, because he is. It's not even just 4 catches, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's not even just that he had that much. It's the way the catch, like, he makes grown men trying to guard him look like toddlers. It looks like me when I'm dunking on my son, and I'm like, that's what Trades Green makes grown men look like.
Yeah. And he's, I don't know, you'd have to look at him from afar and you'd think he's like a gangly guy, but nah, the dude's rocked up. So I kind of wanted to shout that out because, and my guy Tanner Kazoil, he had 9 for 76, and he's climbing up the day 3 conversation. And I don't know that he's ever going to get into day 2, but he's
going to move himself up there though. Yeah. Like, he'll have a shot for day 2. But he's not going to go the back half of day 3. He's at worst, he's going 4 or 5, I think. And then, so the other, we talked about Connor Wegman, but also Dean Connors, their running back, had 126 yards rushing and a touchdown. He's, been a nice bruiser. He is going to the Hula Bowl, which I am going to be posting a video about this week. So I think he's going to do really well. One guy I want to shout out from the UNLV Ohio game. I think it's C.A. Bangura. He had 150 yards and a touchdown, which put him up to 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns on the year. I hadn't really been tracking him hardly at all, but that's some pretty solid production, even at a MAC school like Ohio. And he's actually from the Bowie, Maryland area, right here near us, which is pretty cool. So it'll be interesting. I don't necessarily see him being highly touted in the draft. He is a senior, I believe. But you never know. Could end up getting a UDFA spot and finding a roster.
So up next, I want to talk about the game I wish I saw. Because I actually remember watching, like, I didn't watch this game. I had the tracker on my phone because I can't remember what I was doing. But that just watching the score switch back and forth made me wish I had seen it. But California's Jacob DeJesus, 9 catches for 138 yards and a tutty. A real solid performance, even on a losing effort.
Yeah, and he's a solid wide receiver. I think he's going to be a day 3 guy. He could be a UDFA, but he's got a shot to get drafted for sure. He's been pretty productive in his career. A quick little CMU versus Northwestern. Aiden Hubbard, the edge, had 3 sacks, which is pretty awesome. And then I'll quickly talk about some of the guys in the Minnesota game because Darius Taylor was one of the guys I followed all year long. So Darius Taylor had 116 yards and a touchdown, had a really nice game. Sad part for me is he did announce he's returning. I kind of expected that. I think it actually is the right choice. I was just hoping to get him for the cheap later in the draft. But I think he can improve his stock a lot. And then Anthony Smith, their edge, had 2 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, 2 passes defended. I believe he's going back to school too. And then this guy I've never really even heard of, Maverick Baranowski. But I saw his stat line and I was like, what the crap? Because I kept seeing one guy pop off during the game because I did watch part of this one. He had 17 tackles and a sack. He's a junior, so I'm gonna keep an eye on. I'm gonna like put him onto my list and be like, where is he? Is he still in Minnesota? Just keep an eye on him because that's one heck of a performance in a bowl game.
I'm going to skip down because, well, I can't. That's what I'm going to do. The Penn State Clemson game was one that I sat down to watch, and I want to look. Denai Dennis Sutton had a good game. He had 2 sacks, and Ashton Hampton had a sack and a pass defended. And so they did have standout performances, but I felt bad because I'm going to watch this game. It's so important. I'm going to watch this game. And I'm just going to call it like it is. I fell asleep.
Yeah, it was rough.
I'm like, wow, this. I wanted that to be like, let us show you what could have been, and instead it was more like, let us show you why we're not in a playoff game right now.
Yeah,
and it hopefully Penn State will be like around. What we're going to learn is how would have Iowa State performed if they were in the Big Ten, because Iowa State's in the Big Ten now.
Yeah. Speaking of Iowa State being in the Big Ten, we also have the North Texas versus San Diego State game. And man, North Texas just ran all the whole game was just so many rushing yards. Caleb Hawkins, 198 yards and 2 touchdowns as a running back for North Texas. Ashton Gray, their backup, had 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then San Diego State's running back, Burt Emanuel Jr., who I didn't really know about, is 6'3", 225. He's a junior, and he had 170 yards and 2 touchdowns himself. And Messmaker played really well. Their whole team went to Oregon State, so that'll be fun to watch next year. But Lord have mercy, you had nearly 600 yards rushing between 3 players. It was a fun game. I think it ended up being 50-48 or something crazy like that. That game was a blast to watch.
So in my preseason rankings, I had Eric Rivers in the top 5. I don't remember where exactly in my I just don't know. I think he transferred to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
I don't know why any wide receiver plays for Georgia Tech. It's just not what they do.
Yeah.
But he had 100 yards along with Malik Rutherford. And then Carson Ryan had 120 yards on 8 catches.
He's a tight end, and he is also going to the Hula Bowl. This was his first year really showing off at all. I think he had 620 yards on the season, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm going to let you talk about Miami versus Ohio State so I don't have to be traumatized again.
Yep.
So real quick, USC versus TCU. Not too much to really write home about there, except for the freshman for USC, Tanuk Hines, their wide receiver, 6 catches, 183 yards. He balled out. But the real cool story is because Josh Hoover hit the transfer portal, their backup quarterback, who was a lifelong TCU fan, wanted to play for TCU his whole life, never got a shot to start, even though he transferred there this year because Josh Hoover had the reins. He got the start. And not only did he get the start, he ended up getting the upset victory over USC, which was just super cool to see. And that was that's why we watch football. We watch football for those type of stories. And that was awesome to see.
So when I watched that game, one of the quarterbacks I'm definitely watching, he may even be a player I spotlight, is Mayava for is it Mayava?
Yeah.
For USC, the quarterback for USC. When I watched that bowl game, I saw the potential and I saw the problem at the moment. And he made some throws. I'm like, yeah, man. He's got what you want in a quarterback. And then I saw other throws where I'm like, I don't even know what you were looking at. I don't even know what you were seeing.
Yeah. And
that bowl game was a nice encapsulation of where he is and why I'm glad he's coming back, because the potential is all there for him. And I'm excited to see what he does with another year.
Yeah.
And, you wanted me to touch on.
Yeah, you can talk about Miami and OSU. I need to look from that.
So we got some numbers in our notes. Smith had 157 yards, and there was more meat on the bone, but OSU had no answer for that line.
Nope.
If it was, and really watching that game showed me something, because as I've been listening and watching, people have been like, well, it's really not Bain, it's Messidor. And some people are like, no, Bain's this. And I'm like, no, it's neither. It's the line and the way Taylor has them working, because they are operating as a tandem who understands what the other one's doing. So when Messidor pressures the middle, Bain knows to go wide and use that bend. And so they're working together. So the people saying like Messidor is helping Bain get the sacks. Yeah, yes, he is. And there are times when Bain is pushing people into Messidor, and what you're seeing is a pair of linemen who know how to work together to get to the quarterback. And they also are smart enough, unselfish enough to help each other in that way, and smart enough to know like, hey, we're gonna get ours. We're going to eat.
Yeah, and I know this isn't what we're here talking about, but Jason Taylor is a future star as a coach. He's for sure going to be a defensive coordinator, probably in the NFL at some point. Dude, like, I feel like it's rare that you have players that were that good end up becoming coaches. It seems to be more of a thing lately. With guys like Eddie George, Primetime, stuff like that. So I love seeing Jason Taylor doing what he's doing with that defensive line.
Speaking of Primetime, shout out to our boy Gideon Lamprin. Welcome to Colorado. We are stoked. Go light it up, man.
Yeah, he reached out and said thank you for all the support and stuff too. So you're gonna hear a lot over the next year, because we're pretty confident Gideon Lamprin's gonna go into Colorado and light up the Big 12. So one game I love to talk about is Michigan versus Texas. I was just joking with my friend Drew Garrison, who's a big Bengals fan. He is a Michigan fan, and he was pumped that Bryce Underwood is returning to Michigan. And I said, so is the rest of the Big Ten. We're really excited for it too, because his passing, just the way he throws, his decision making is just rough. So Michigan, was having a bit of a rough time. But part of the reason they were having a bit of a rough time is because Arch was like, hey, just so we know where things stand going into next year, allow me to reintroduce myself, because he had 221 passing yards, 155 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. It was the flashes that we kept seeing all season, put together in the best way possible, man. He looked so good, and they've been able to retain some of their best offensive tackle, Trevor Gooseby, who I thought could have pushed for round 1 this year, came back. They've had some other people transfer in. So Texas should be an absolute force if Arch can take where he ended this season and go forward into next year. And I know, Matt, you're of the belief that he's going to take all the years he can in college. I think you could be right, but I also think that it's going to be dependent on Texas's turnout next year and what they do. If Texas goes out and wins the national championship and Arch gets the Heisman next year, he's going to the NFL.
So this year that we're currently in, I would have bet everything, my mortgage, my retirement, everything, that there's no planet where Arch comes out. Next year, I'm like, I am pretty sure. You want to bet on that? I said, no, I don't want to bet, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Mannings, they maximize eligibility. It's just what they do.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about my guy Mendoza, who people keep wanting to. There's a part of me that's rooting for both Moore and Simpson to come out, because that might make him fall to number 3. Yeah. And then I would get Mendoza, and I would still have the best quarterback. If you're talking upside versus immediate payoff, there's a conversation in Dante Moore's upside, but you gain experience in college snaps. We're seeing it more and more and more in the NFL, and I just hope people realize that. But if they insist on coming out and people betting on their upside, sure, I will happily take Mendoza at 3 if you let him fall there. But what we saw against Alabama, it's not like he carved that. Well, it's not that he lit them up for like 80,000 yards. I think he had less than 200, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was 14 of 16, I think. He was super efficient.
And it's like the like at least 4 games where he had more touchdowns than incompletions.
Yeah.
So you sit there and you watch this guy who, we need to beat Penn State. It's got to be me. Okay, here we go. And it's, hey, we're gonna like run for 1 billion yards and our defense is gonna shut these guys out. Okay, I will keep us on schedule. Yeah. So anyone not me uses the term game manager as an insult. I think you can't be a great quarterback if you can't manage a game the way Fernando managed the game against Alabama in a beatdown against another SEC team.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple little names to hear about. Dane Brugler pointed out DJ Vaname, the tight end from Iowa, because Iowa tight ends always end up being good for some reason. This kid had 7 receptions for 146 yards and a touchdown in the upset win over Vandy from Iowa. So that's their guy of the future. I believe, I don't know if he is eligible for the draft next year, but someone I'm going to be paying attention to. And then in Nebraska versus Utah as well, Devin Dampier, I'm probably never going to be too high on him as a draft guy because of his size. He's just too small. But he had 310 yards passing, 148 yards rushing, and 5 touchdowns total. He absolutely just went bonkers in that game.
All right, where are we going to go? Let's talk about the best college football game so far, the best college football playoff game so far. Ole Miss, Georgia. So let's start with the highlights. You got Wallace and Stribling, who combined for 278 yards. And then you had Chambliss with 362 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he's trying very hard to get another year at Ole Miss. And it was a super exciting game. It was really well played. It was an amazing, amazing watch. Whatever you want to rate it, it has the max rate +2 in terms of games played. But it did start an interesting debate that I just want to kind of pose here, because I'm talking about the play where I think he was on the 30, ran all the way back to the end zone, ran all the way around the other side, and then he saw a guy come open, launched the ball, and an epic comeback for all generations was started. And I acknowledge that was an amazing special play. But that was a play that worked out. I promise you, every coach on the field, the next day in film, they're like, do not do this. Yeah. Do not do this. What I'm personally mad at is if you put a quarterback there and you don't like that quarterback and he makes that play, you're like, see, what an idiot. He shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. Sooner or later, it's going to get him burned, and that's why he's no good, because he does things like that, and it's going to get him caught. But then a quarterback you like does the same thing. They're like, look at that guy making a play, extending the play, creating a play. And I'm a crazy person. I have this theory. The same thing cannot be true in the same circumstances at the same time. So either running around like a chicken with your head cut off, possibly giving up 30 yards and a safety, is dumb no matter who does it. Yeah. Was it amazing to see? Yes. In the arguments I've had on that, because that's a thing I do, one guy's like, well, no, he can do it because he's really fast. And I'm like, I don't care how fast he is. Lamar Jackson gets sacked, and I don't know how fast Chambliss is, but he's not that fast.
Lamar Jackson in their game this weekend that they lost had like a 15-yard sack.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing.
And if you pull this young man who has talent, if you pull him and you go, I saw that play you did against Georgia, so I'm going to put you on the field. Just do that. It's going to fail more than it succeeds because that play in a vacuum was it might be the play you use when you show the highlight of the college football playoff this year. But in a film room, that's what coaches are pointing at, saying like, look, you want to rely on your athleticism, but again, if you think Chambliss is doing that in the NFL, you don't know the NFL.
I mean, you
Johnny Manziel
look at Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, who I wasn't super high on, was running around like that, making lots of boneheaded plays last year. Ben Johnson comes in, who kind of reins him in, puts him more in a system. And while I still think he isn't necessarily the best, he is performing at a much better level, and his team is performing at a much better level because he's playing within the system and playing more under control and only doing the crazy things when he really has to. That's the difference.
So this is where it harmonizes. When you watch Chambliss make that play, you absolutely tell him, you can't do that. You can't let that be your reaction.
Yeah.
And then when the moment comes and he needs it because something went terribly wrong, that level of athleticism, you're like, well, maybe he can escape plays that other people could not escape. So before, because again, like I was trying to point out, if you say this habit is bad, the habit is bad. It doesn't matter who does it. That was my messaging on Twitter. And I will stand behind that messaging. I drafted Shedeur number 11 in my shadow team. But everyone's like, Shedor's dumb because he drifts in the pocket and tries to scramble. He tries to bail out of the pocket. And I'm like, yeah, and he needs to stop that. He needs to stop that. But you can't then praise Chambliss for doing what you condemned Shedeur for doing. And then people, because I brought up that comparison, people are like, well, he's way better. This isn't a better, worse. This isn't, the comparison is in this thing. I don't care if you're Chambliss. I don't care if you're Michael Vick. I don't care who you are. Don't do that. Step in the pocket, move around. That shiftiness is real good when you've already gained 3 yards. Did it work? Was it special? Do I think he has put himself on a radar and given himself a chance to fight to be drafted? But the fact that Kyler Murray, who's a similar height and similar skill set, has been given up on, you need to win in the pocket. Case in point, Kyler Murray relies on athleticism, running around, doing special things. Bryce Young may prove me wrong because he's like, no, I've always been a pocket guy. I needed to develop. I needed to see it. I needed a receiver I could count on. But now I'm in a playoff game. And it's because I stay in structure. And people who rely on athleticism, who like my athleticism's always been enough, they don't succeed.
Yep.
So,
hopping into Oregon versus Texas Tech. Wow, that Texas Tech, I don't know if it was Oregon's defense is that good or Texas Tech offense is that bad. I kind of lean towards Texas Tech's offense is that bad. Because, man, they were awful. No worries. They have the Cincinnati great Brennan Sorsby coming in next year, as well as like 900 defensive linemen that they've signed in the portal. Texas Tech is still going to be an absolute force next year. But some of the highlights from that game is Tatum Tuioti, who's a junior linebacker. I believe he's probably going to go back. He had 2 sacks.
Uyangalele.
There we go. He had a sack and a fumble recovery. The fumble recovery, like he actually like strip sacked the guy, and then like just pinned it against his back and then just took it. It's pretty cool. And then David Bailey, who I followed all season long, even though his team got destroyed, he had 9 tackles, a sack, 2 pass defenses. He looked, the part. I'm pretty sure he's going to go top 10, maybe even top 5. He's going to blow the testing out of the water too. So, to be honest with this game, so far the college football playoff Oregon games have shown me that while Dante Moore might come out, I think it's better that he goes back. Not that he's looked horrible, but there's been so many things that I'm like, man, if he gets put on a bad team, he's going to get wrecked. So there's a lot of talk about him probably coming back because, Oregon has that Nike money. And they haven't signed anyone in the portal yet, in terms of quarterbacks. So I'm expecting Dante Moore to come back. So then pretty much everyone besides Oakland is out of luck. And we can maybe talk about this here in a little bit, but there's a void for QB2 if Dante Moore goes back, and someone has to fill it. But before we talk about that, quickly, we'll talk about Navy versus Cincinnati. The last game, it was not the last game, but it was on the last day of bowl season. Just someone I want to shout out. Eli Heidenreich had 126 yards between his rushing and receiving yards and a touchdown. He's listed as a fullback / wide receiver. He's going to be at the East-West Shrine Bowl. I love this kid. I really do think he's going to get drafted. And Landon Robinson had a decent game as well. He's that other Navy guy that we like. Cincinnati, pretty much their entire team didn't play. So not really much to talk about there. But, yeah, Landon Robinson and Eli Heidenreich, I think Navy's going to have 2 players drafted this year. You and I are both super high on the skill set that Landon Robinson and his freak of nature, like just size and strength. I think he's going to get drafted and the team's going to look really, really smart because of it. But real quick, let's talk a little bit about who's going to be that guy, that quarterback. If you had to take a guess, who's going to be the quarterback that can potentially steal that quarterback 2 spot if Dante Moore does return to college?
So if he wins the interview, Carson Beck is going in round 1.
Okay.
Now, you and I have had several offline conversations about Carson Beck.
Yeah.
But if you step away from the human being, if you do a blind resume test, he's a first-round quarterback. And the reason you want to, why am I not thinking of taking him number 3? Why? And look, I reserve the right to think about it, but at this moment, I'm not even considering it. Why? I remember Georgia.
Yeah.
I understand. What's weird though is, and again, I don't understand it. I saw the interview where if you listen to someone else tell it, they'll say like Carson Beck said it was all the wide receivers' fault and it was a terrible route. That's not what he said. That's not even how he said it. He was trying to explain that the receiver running the route saw something different than he saw, and they just weren't on the same page.
Yeah.
And I will acknowledge it's not how it came out, because I don't know the young man, but I've seen things from the young man that rub me as a human being the wrong way. But just a few minutes ago, I said the standard has to be the standard. So if I'm going to light up people for how they responded to whatever Shedeur reportedly did. Now, the difference is I actually saw Carson Beck do things. I actually heard Carson Beck say things. And all these reports about what Shedeur may or may not have done have been reports from people who are unnamed. And so I stand behind, like, I have not seen this action.
Yeah.
So I have to acknowledge what Carson Beck has to, like, I think you're going to tell me that he didn't really play well in these big games. I'm like, but he didn't play bad, and that's enough.
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy who was going to be number one last year before the nightmare happened. So these scouts who want to be right, and these people who know how head coaches think, they're going to look at the body type, they're going to look at the throws, they're going to look at the arm strength, and then the only thing Beck has to do is win the interview.
Yeah.
And he's going in the first round. Now, will he win the interview? I don't know yet. And if he wins the interview and the hype train's rolling, I might have to think about it, because I know that Shedeur has not been anointed. So my rule is, if you do not have a starting quarterback, you need to draft one.
Yeah. And well, I mean, I think you're most likely right. There's a good chance Carson Beck is going to end up becoming that QB2 if Dante Moore goes back to school. If not, and by when I say Carson Beck, I mean one of the established big name guys. And so that's Carson Beck, Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, those guys that were preseason were considered like a lot of the best guys. If Dante Moore goes back to school, one of those guys is probably going to end up being QB2. The question is QB2 in round 1 or is in QB2 in round like 3, 4, 5? But the dark horse guy that I've definitely talked about is going to the Senior Bowl, Cole Payton out of North Dakota State. He's not even on PFF's big board right now, which is absurd to me. But his mechanics need to get fixed a little bit as a passer. And I know that he's working on that now. I've seen videos and stuff that he's posted. His athleticism and his size, he's 6'3", 230, but he's got absolute wheels. You watch him play, you watch his North Dakota State tape, and you watch Josh Allen's Wyoming tape, and they're very similar, except for Josh Allen was honestly a more wild passer at that stage of his playing career. So I think the world of Cole Payton, and I think he has the chance that if he goes and kills it at the Senior Bowl, he could be that guy that shoots up and someone at the end of round 1 that wants to draft that quarterback of the future, like the Lions, maybe the Rams, those teams that have established quarterbacks that are on the last legs or potentially need to be replaced eventually. I think Cole Payton could be that guy that gets a team that is willing to let him sit for a year, let him learn and progress and develop as a passer. Because he's really, he's only had a season of starts, like 13 starts, I think. So he needs that time.
I would argue, I would state, do not let Sean McVay have a late first round pick and a Hall of Fame quarterback who's playing at an MVP level and help McVay realize, I could take this kid for nothing, put him behind Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
Do not let that happen.
As a fan of Cole Payton, I know you're a Niners fan, so you don't want it to happen. But as a fan of Cole Payton, I think that if that is the dream scenario for him, if he can go to Sean McVay, sit behind Stafford for probably his final year next year, and learn behind him and become a pro and become a more technical passer, that could be the thing that tells McVay he's going to do another 15 years as a coach. because that could be the player that really does take that step. Because his ceiling is like way up here. His floor is equally as far down here. Like Cole Payton could never make a roster, but
Mhm.
Cole Payton could also, potentially become one of the top quarterbacks in the league if he's developed properly and given the time to do so.
So one more note on Peyton. I have him at a 97 production grade.
Yeah.
Which is the highest. And then he has the potential for a 98 athleticism grade. I got to see him test, but he could have a 98 athleticism grade, which would be among the highest. Now, he holds onto that ball way too long. There are things he has to learn, but if you draft this young man and you have a plan for this young man and you develop this young man, you could have an amazing success story on your hands.
Yeah, clip it right now if you want. Cole Payton is the guy that I think has possibly the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this draft if he gets to the right situation and can be given the time to develop.
I think you can remove the word possibly.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the bowl season. We've got a couple games coming up still that I want to make our picks on, since we both are wrong with who will be in them. So Oregon, Indiana, I think that one's pretty simple. We're both leaning Indiana.
So yes, the answer is yes. I think that game, I have no doubt Miami wins and beats A&M.
Ole Miss, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no doubt Miami beats Ole Miss. Miami, I would, and again, I could be wrong. So you can save this if you want to call me out. But I think Miami beats Ole Miss so bad, people think differently about Ole Miss, which would be a shame. But I think if Chambliss, it'll be an opportunity to show growth.
Yeah.
If Chambliss tries to get away with the things that he like, oh, this is Georgia. That Georgia is not Georgia. Alabama and Georgia are not Alabama and Georgia. Nick Saban is gone.
Yeah, well, and Messidor and Bain are going to be in his face if he tries to do that stuff. And I think that's what's going to. I think those two are going to combine for like 5 sacks and just wreck the whole game.
So I'm certain about that one. But Oregon, Indiana, I'm like, yeah, I think Indiana's going to win, but I'm not as comfortable there. And that's just saying the two teams are so good and so comparative.
Yeah.
Like it's a coin flip for me. I think the other one's a blowout.
So we both have it as Indiana versus Miami in the championship. And I personally think that Indiana is going to take it home. And now, if the O-line for Indiana can't hold up, that's where things get interesting. But I don't think that Miami is going to score too much against Indiana either. So I think that Miami versus Indiana for the CFP is going to be a low-scoring game, in my opinion.
Isn't the national title game like in Miami though?
I'm not sure. Let's see. Miami Gardens, Florida.
Yeah. So it's a home game for that doesn't shift anything for you?
Not particularly, because again, I don't trust Beck.
So I would favor, like, I'm with you. I think Indiana wins it all, but you can't look at a home game and not at least give the home team 3 points. I think it's going to be like 10-7. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be, a well-played defensive battle, and I think Mendoza pulls another rabbit out of his hat.
Possible. So that'll end the college football season, and then we've already got college football all-star games starting this weekend with the Hula Bowl. And then, so we've got several games coming up. We've got the Hula Bowl on the 10th of January, the American Bowl on January 22nd, East-West Shrine Bowl on January 27th, and the Senior Bowl on January 31st, with practices starting earlier than that. So Matt and I, we split those up. I'm covering the Hula Bowl and the East-West Shrine. Matt is covering the American and the Senior Bowl. You're going to see some pre-recorded videos come out with players to watch. Just players that we think you should keep an eye out for. Not all of them, because there's way too many players to do that. Hula Bowl, probably going to be more of those day 3 UDFA guys. And then a lot of the better players are in the other 3 games. But before we talk a little bit more about our upcoming schedule, let's do a quick playoff for the NFL. Let's predict the upcoming games. What do you think?
Oh, okay. Yep.
Sound good? All right. So, first game. I don't know. I actually don't know if it's the first game, but the 4 versus 5 Steelers versus Texans. Who you got?
I think the Texans were more relieved than the Steelers. The Texans walk away with that one.
Yeah, me too. I know the Steelers had a big emotional win, crazy game, but yeah, Texans are going to win that. And then we've got Jaguars versus Bills, and I actually have the Jaguars beating the Bills.
The Jaguars are playing better. I'm gonna go with the Bills because I just can't imagine if Josh Allen doesn't win the Super Bowl this year, he's not gonna.
And it's in Jacksonville.
So I freely acknowledge Jacksonville should win. Jacksonville is playing better. I just can't bet against Josh Allen in a playoff with no Lamar and no Burrow and no Mahomes.
Yeah, Buffalo is a 1.5 point favorite. So the next game for the AFC, Patriots versus Chargers. I think you and I are proven right with our Drake May views, and I think Drake May is going to bring it home. Same for you?
Yep.
All right, so off to the NFC. We've got the Panthers versus Rams. I can't see the 8-9 back into the playoffs. Panthers beating the Rams, but I know you would enjoy that.
Hold on a second.
They did beat them earlier in the year. I'm pretty sure. And Rams are 10.5 point favorites.
They are, but so here we go. The Seattle Seahawks were the first team to be a losing team and go to the playoffs. And everyone's like, the Saints are going to kill them. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
The Carolina Panthers, this is the second time they've done it with a losing season. They beat the Cardinals. The Washington football team won the NFC East. Now they lost to the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers were a losing team, and they lost to the Cowboys. So it's a 50-50 split. You can't underestimate home team. Now, I hate the Rams. I hate the Rams. I need to pray about my feelings toward that team. I think they should win. I'm rooting so hard for the Panthers. I'm just going on record. Everyone complains, win your division, win a home game. You win as much as you lose.
Yeah.
And so if the Rams go into it, and let's not pretend the Rams have been playing good football lately.
Yeah, no, they haven't.
So you know what? I'm calling it. Panthers win.
Okay, there you go. Now the next game, we've got the Eagles versus your 49ers.
Yeah.
Niners taken.
Niners win.
I think the Niners win as well. Philly at 4.5-point favorites. Philly their offense has looked clunky lately. And so I just I don't see them being able to stop the Niners offense that well. And I think the Niners defense can do enough to stop the Eagles. And then we get into the last game of the first round, which is the Bears versus Packers. The resurgent 2-seed Bears versus the 7-seed Packers. Who you got?
Is Love healthy?
I believe so. The reason he didn't play last week was to make sure he could play this week.
I think experience wins out. I think the Packers win because Love has already won a playoff game, and that first playoff game is a real shock.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am too. Plus, my wife is a Packers fan, so if I didn't pick the Packers, she'd be mad at me. So I think
some random piece of toilet paper, like some roll of toilet paper hits you in the head.
Yeah, so I think the Packers will bring it home. Overall, I think I think that the Super Bowl is probably actually going to be. I'm leaning that it's going to be Texans versus Seahawks. That's where I'm leaning. Texans versus Seahawks. With the Seahawks bringing it down. That's where I'm leaning right now. What are you thinking?
Well, first off, how dare you, sir, predict the Seahawks winning a Super Bowl in my home stadium? How dare you?
I know.
It's
I'm pretty wrong most of the time, so I'm kind of making sure that I get that jinx in there for you.
It's gonna be. My son's amused. It's gonna be Niners Texans, and Niners win their home game Super Bowl, and in what I think would be an amazing game.
Yeah. All right. So really all we got to talk about now is what's coming up. So draft season's about to get crazy. So in 2 weeks, we're going to start a stream of most likely, subject to change if something comes up, but every week we will be on here on Tuesday nights to talk the draft, planning for our shadow team drafts, doing mock drafts. And so on the 20th of January, we're going to talk about transfer portal. We're going to talk about where everybody went. I just saw a thing that Sam Levitt is visiting Tennessee. Don't like that personally. Like I don't. Tennessee's system has not been very good for quarterbacks. Like they put up lots of numbers, but I don't like it. But so on the 20th, we'll talk about the transfer portal, who went where, the players we're most interested in. We're going to have talk about all that stuff because the transfer portal will be pretty much closed by then. The guys in the CFP will still have some time to declare or transfer, I believe. But we'll pretty much have the answers on most people. And then the 27th will be our shadow team regular season wrap up. We'll talk about where we feel our teams are standing right now. We've been looking at that lately, and so we're getting our heads wrapped around that. We'll talk about that. And then February 3rd, we're going to talk about all the college football all-star games that we talked about. So we'll talk about who stood out and who made themselves potentially the most money by moving up in the draft. And then from there, February 10th through April 14th, every week is going to be a different position or position group. We're going to go over our top 10s. Now, these top 10s may change because we'll get the athletic testing in. The occasional stuff comes out through interviews, things like that. So there'll be up to a little bit of fluctuation. But then the week before the draft, on April 21st, the week of the draft, April 21st, we're going to do our final big boards. And then on April 23rd, Matt will be live from where he's sitting right now, most likely. And I'll be live from a hotel room surrounded by 12 billion small, tiny cheerleaders. at my
You need to
daughter's.
elaborate.
Yeah, my daughter's competition in Florida. So she's going to have a big competition in Florida that happens to be the same weekend as the draft. And my daughter comes first. So I'll be there while the family's sleeping for the live round one draft. And then I'll be probably a little out of pocket for the rest of the weekend. But then me and Matt will be back on April 28th. And on April 28th, we will talk about who we drafted, maybe some UDFAs we picked up, if we've done that yet, maybe, I'm not sure. And we'll talk about the most surprising things from the actual draft, but then also the tough decisions we had to make from our shadow draft. And that is pretty much what we have planned. I'm about to start politely reaching out to a bunch of people that are tentative yeses for interviews as well. So if you're a college football player and you want us to interview you and tell people your story, feel free to put a comment down below, and we'll definitely tell that story.
Hey, I just want to note for a second, we Colton Hood, we shouted out that train. He's a round two guy at worst.
Yep.
Gideon Lamprin upgraded to Colorado. Landon Robinson's gonna get drafted,
and he's moved up like 100 something on the consensus board from when we've been talking about him.
Yep.
So far, we've been pretty right with a lot of guys we've talked about.
So just to be clear, we're not saying we don't have anyone's ear. We're not saying all this. What we're saying is we're standing behind when we look at a prospect and we think well of that prospect. Sooner or later, people figure out what we've been screaming about. It's the young man's potential. It's the young man's skill set. But we're usually very early, and people eventually catch up to us.
Yeah, like with Gideon. I saw the production he was having at Dayton, and started to look into him. And that's when I actually found out that his middle name was ESPN or Espen. And I didn't seek him out because of that. I sought him out because of his story. He was like this elite college football, this elite high school athlete that was a 0-star because he has a 5 at the front of his height instead of a 6. And so he didn't get recruited that well. And now what has he done? He's shown it on the field what he can do. And he's now gone from FCS Dayton to Big 12 with one of the most in-your-face, well-known coaches in college football. So that's what we want to do with this, is to tell people stories. So hopefully we'll be doing that. I'm going to reach out to some coaches, things like that as well, maybe some agents, to have them give perspective on different aspects of the draft, the NIL world, all that stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to get some of that for you in the near future. But Matt, unless you got anything,
you guys have a good one.
Have a good night. Like I said, we will see you on January 20th to talk about the transfer portal. And as always, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.